It started on Fridays. My daughter-in-law, Kayla, called it Grandma Day. I picked up Ollie from preschool at noon, walked him home along the path with the painted rocks, and we made grilled cheese that always broke in the middle because I used too much cheese on purpose. By spring, Grandma Day had turned into Monday through Friday, plus most school holidays. The texts changed from, "Could you do me a favor?" to, "You've got a pickup, right?" Somewhere in there, I stopped setting my own appointments on weekdays because they would only be moved anyway. Before I go on, if you like stories told by someone who's lived a while, subscribe to QuietRevenge and tell me where you're listening from. I'm Margaret Cole Maggie, to most 70, retired from the front desk at a medical office, the kind of job where your smile has to reach the person who's scared. I live 10 minutes from my son, Daniel, and Kayla, and I love my grandchildren in the ordinary way that makes you buy stickers at the drugstore for no reason. Ollie is 5 and believes socks are optional. Mia is 8 and has strong opinions about pencils. Loving them was the easy part. Learning to keep a piece of my week for myself turned out to be the work. The first time the schedule crept, Kayla was starting a new project and asked if I could take Wednesday just this once. I said, of course. Then her just this once ran right into Daniel's deadline, and suddenly there was a Thursday too. Fridays were already mine, and I let Monday slip in because she said the sitter had the flu. It was winter. People get sick. I told myself that. It sounded reasonable in my kitchen. It sounded less reasonable sitting in the car line at Mia's school for 40 minutes, inching forward, practicing patience with the heat on low because my knee gets stiff if I idle too long. I didn't complain. I have a rule about not complaining unless I have another plan in my pocket. By March, I was leaving for school pickup at 2:30 and getting home near 6 most days. On holidays, I did full days because the sitter went back to campus and aftercare didn't run. I kept the kids busy and happy. We read, we baked, we drew half a zoo. Some days were lovely, some were long. When I missed my physio appointment for the second time because there's no one else, I told the office I was sorry and heard the woman on the line say, in that kind, tired voice I used to use, "We'll find you something." You need rest, Margaret. She didn't know she'd spoken the truth of the whole situation, not just my knee. Kayla isn't cruel. She's quick. She solves the problem she can see, and for months I let myself be the easy answer. Daniel is the peacekeeper. He smooths. He's good at it, and it has cost him before. Neither of them sat down to turn me into a job. It happened because I am reliable, and this city is full of waiting lists. Still, there's a difference between helping and being the plan, and I had quietly crossed it. One afternoon, I was at their place making pasta with the sauce Ollie calls red soup, and my phone buzzed on the counter. It was my GP's office with the results from the blood work I'd done early that morning before the day got away from me. Everything looked fine, the nurse said, then added gently, "And keep your physio. You're overdoing it." She did not know that at that very moment, I had a 5-year-old clinging to my leg and a boiling pot in my hand. I hung up, drained the pasta, and felt suddenly as tired as I have felt in years. Tired in my bones, not from the children, from the assumption. At dinner, Kayla breezed in, kissed the kids, tossed her bag on a chair, and said, "Thank you, Maggie, you're a lifesaver. Can you start a load of soccer stuff? Mia's practice is early." Her phone pinged. She checked it, frowned, then smiled at something on the screen. Daniel came in behind her, late and apologetic. He went straight to the kids, made voices until they shrieked, then came to me and kissed my cheek. "You're a saint," he said. It was kind. It was also a word you use when someone is doing too much and you don't want to look straight at it. "I can do 2 days a week," I said. My voice surprised me, not because it was sharp, but because it was calm. Not 5. Not holidays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 3. If you need more than that, we plan it, not assume it. Kayla straightened from the laundry basket. "Wait, what? Since when?" Since my knee told me and my doctor agreed, I said. I missed physio twice for pickups. That's on me. I'm fixing it. Daniel rubbed his eyebrow the way he did when he was a boy and homework looked taller than him. We can talk about this, he said, which is what he says when he needs time to get used to a new shape. I am talking, I said, and I was careful to keep it soft. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 3. I'll still do the fun, messy things you hate in your dining room. I'll still show up with snacks that make sense. I'll still be grandma. I won't be full-time care. Kayla blinked. We can't afford a nanny, Maggie. Aftercare is full. The sitter's back at school. We're on 3 wait lists. I know, I said, so the 3 of us need to sit down and call 2 new people. There's the retired teacher from church who told me she's looking for hours. There's the college kid Ruth knows from the community center. You and I can call them together and ask our questions. We can also look at the neighbor's high school girl for the after-school window. We'll piece it. It will not be perfect. It will be better than Mom will do it, written over every square. Kayla looked down at the basket. The socks were inside out. She hates that. She started turning them right side out one by one, which is how I knew she was thinking. This is just bad timing, she said. My project. Dan's hours, school schedules, it's a lot. It's life, I said. That's why the plan has to be something you can keep when the week is not polite. She let out a breath. So 2 days, and you'll help us find someone for the others. Yes, I said, I will help. The rest you'll cover. Daniel nodded. Okay. It sounded like we'd agreed, but I know a nod that buys time. I left after bedtime with that heavy tiredness sitting on my shoulders like a damp coat. At home, I stood in front of my refrigerator and stared at the blank white space where other people keep photos. I have a few. A yellow school portrait of Mia where her hair is trying to do its own thing, and a preschool collage from Ollie that used a shocking amount of glue. But most of my fridge is a whiteboard. I like lists. I like seeing a week at once. I wiped it clean and drew a new grid. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 3. I wrote it with the thick black marker and circled it once in blue. Then I took a paper wall calendar out of the drawer, the kind with big squares, and blocked those same hours for the next 3 months. On the side, I wrote phone numbers. Ruth, the retired teacher, Mrs. Patel, the teenager across the street, Gina, and the agency a friend at the senior center used when she needed help after her surgery. I hung the calendar next to my front door where I couldn't walk out without seeing it. It looked like nothing to anyone else. It looked like a seatbelt to me. The next morning, instead of heading straight to their house, I went to my own physio appointment. I showed up 10 minutes early like the first day of school. My therapist, a cheerful woman named June who told me the truth without a cushion, tested my range and gave me homework. You're doing too much lifting from one side, she said, showing me how to turn with a bag of groceries. You're compensating. People do it because it works until it doesn't. Share the load with your other leg. Your back will stop doing what your hips should. I'm trying that everywhere, I said. Good, she said. Your body will thank you. Your mind might resent you for a week. After physio, I drove to Daniel and Kayla's. I told myself I wouldn't apologize for showing up at 10 instead of 8:30. I didn't see. The house was in mid-morning disarray. Cereal bowls soaking, a backpack open like a mouth, markers without caps, the daily proof that life had happened. Kayla was at the dining table with her laptop. She looked up and started to say something, then closed it and pushed it aside. Can we? She asked, motioning toward the chairs. We can, I said. She had already made a list. I could see the edges of it under her hands. It wasn't long. People make lists when they're trying to act like they're in charge of something that scares them. I didn't sleep, she said. I lay there thinking about money and schedules and aftercare and the way Mia looks for you at pickup. She likes you there. It makes me feel sane when I know you're in the line. I like being in the line, I said, 2 days a week. She let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. You're serious?" "I am." Daniel came in from the garage wiping his hands on a rag. "I told her we have to build around you, not on you," he said. He sounded tired in the way men sound when they've tried to be the bridge and discovered bridges crack if you park a truck on them. "I made tea," Kayla said. She poured without asking what kind and set a cup in front of me. She had learned at least one thing from me. We talked for an hour. We wrote names. We divided calls. We made a short list of questions we could ask without sounding like we were interrogating anyone. Kayla would call Mrs. Patel. I would text Ruth for the college student's number and ask about her schedule. Daniel would talk to the neighbor with the high schooler and find out if she could do school pickup 2 days. We decided to try different people for the different hours instead of one person for everything because that was real life right now, not a brochure. Then we got practical. We looked at the school calendar sitting under a magnet shaped like a lemon. We circled the next holiday. We agreed that on school holidays I would take one morning, not a full day, and only if it fit my physio and any appointment I had already set. I said it plainly and watched Kayla's face. She flinched, then smoothed, then nodded. "If we plan," she said, "we can make it work." Ollie barreled in from the hallway carrying a blanket he insists is not a blanket, but a cape of serious work. He climbed into my lap and asked if I was staying all day. I told him I'd leave after lunch. He made the face that lives between disappointment and the acceptance of rules. "Okay," he said, "but read the long book first." I stayed through lunch. I read the long book. I left at 1, went home, and lay down on my couch without feeling like I had stolen something. At 3, my phone pinged. It was Kayla, called Mrs. Patel. She can do MIC-WHAT W523530 starting next week. Wants to meet us. Is that good? I texted back yes with the relief of a person finding a first foothold on a steep trail. 5 minutes later, Ruth answered. The college student, Nina, had time on Fridays and most school holidays from 9 to 2. "She's quiet, kind, CPR trained," Ruth wrote. "Tell Kayla to call her. I'll text you the number." I forwarded it. Kayla wrote back, "I'll call after this meeting." "Thank you." Daniel texted a photo of a crumpled permission slip and wrote, "Unrelated but important. Mia needs this for choir. I'm a mess." I told him to breathe and print it. I told him I'd done the same thing 100 times. He sent the thumbs up. That means he wishes he could hand me the printer. The next day, Kayla put the kids' schedule on the fridge with a fat marker, school, aftercare on the days it existed, the new blocks for Mrs. Patel and Nina, pending, and my hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 3. When I came by that afternoon, I saw it and felt that small click in my chest I get when something sits where it belongs. Not everything turned easy overnight. The first call with Mrs. Patel turned into 2 because she wanted to meet the children alone before committing, and she asked sensible questions about pickup and allergies that made Kayla defensive for half a minute. Nina called back and said she had finals in December and could not cover one of the holiday days they wanted. The neighbor girl had cheer practice on Thursdays, which wiped out one option. The aftercare waitlist moved up by 1 name and then didn't move again for 2 weeks. There were gaps. There always are. But the difference was we were looking at the gaps together instead of everyone assuming I'd pour myself into them. Mia surprised me. She liked the schedule on the fridge. She stood in front of it with a pencil and asked what the arrows meant. When I told her it was to show who picked her up, she traced the arrow with her finger and nodded like a person who had just learned where to stand in a line. "I like knowing," she said. I get nervous when I don't. Kayla's worry shifted from, "How will we afford this?" to, "Will the children be okay with new faces?" That was the question that lived under all the other questions. We answered it the way you do. We told the truth in small pieces. We told the kids who was coming. We said when. We stayed for the first hour and then left the room. We didn't hover. We cleaned the kitchen together instead and practiced not listening so hard. I kept my physio. I kept my Tuesday morning coffee with Ruth at the community center, the one I had abandoned for months without admitting I was sad about it. I started walking the long way to the bakery on Thursdays after drop-off because my knee liked the steady pace, and because it felt good to have a day with the shape I had drawn. There were frictions. There always are. Mrs. Patel wanted a firm end time and once reminded Kayla at 5:22 that 5:30 means 5:30. Nina's car didn't start on a rainy Friday, and I took Ollie for an hour until Kayla got home, which was fine because I was home that day, and the hour turned into 2 because we fell into a puzzle. But those were adjustments, not the pattern. The pattern was that we had a plan and we didn't pretend otherwise. The pushback, when it came in a small way. One Tuesday evening, Daniel called and said, "Mom, we're desperate tomorrow. Could you take Wednesday too? Just this once." I almost said yes. The word was already in my throat. Then I looked at my calendar and saw 2 appointments I'd put off for months, the dentist and the hairdresser. Nothing urgent, everything essential. "I can't," I said. "I have my appointments." There was a beat of quiet on the line. "Right," he said. "You have your life." "I do," I said, and I smiled because it felt good to hear it out loud. "I'll talk to Kayla," he said. "We'll call Mrs. Patel and the neighbor. We'll figure it out." "Good," I said. "That's the plan." He called back an hour later. "Got it covered. I'll do drop-off." Kayla got Mrs. Patel for pickup. We owe her a better calendar. "Everyone does better with a better calendar," I said. It sounded like something we should have known all along. A week later, we had the meeting with Mrs. Patel in their living room. She wore her old-school lanyard, which made me like her immediately. She spoke to the kids first, then to us. She wanted to know what would make the afternoon go smoothly. Mia said snacks and a quiet half-hour before homework. Ollie said capes. Mrs. Patel wrote both down. She turned to Kayla and said, "You will need to be home at 5:30. If that is difficult, you will tell me in the morning. I am not strict. I am old enough to know what makes this work." Kayla said yes too fast, and then said it again slower. Yes. On the way out, I told Mrs. Patel I had been a receptionist and understood schedules. She smiled and patted my arm. "Then you know the magic is mostly in the clock," she said. That night, we called Nina together on speaker and went over her finals week. We marked one day she couldn't cover and found a mom from Mia's class who could swap. It isn't elegant, this life. It's boxes on a wall and people stepping into them because someone asked with a fair voice. I wrote my 2 days on my own calendar in ink. I slept through the night for the first time in months without waking at 3 to count backward from pickup. I'm telling you all this so you understand that nothing explosive happened. No screaming, no ultimatums, no courtroom speeches at the dining table. The fix was ordinary. 2 conversations, 3 phone calls, a calendar, and me saying a short sentence when my reflex wanted to give away my week again. I love them. I also like my Tuesdays. Both can live in the same house. That was the beginning of the change. The rest settled in over a few weeks, the way a picture straightens if you keep nudging the frame. I started to enjoy my 2 days with the kids again because I wasn't carrying the other 3 on my back like invisible grocery bags. We did the messy science kit on Thursday, and I didn't snap when vinegar spilled. I had time to wash my hair before pickup and show up as a person, not a system. Mia didn't have to scan the curb for me 4 days out of 5. She knew which days were mine. She liked the knowing. I wish I could tell you. Kayla thanked me with a speech. She didn't, Kay. She did better. She started putting the laundry basket in the hallway so I wouldn't be tempted to fold it. She laid out snacks in the morning before she left on my days so I didn't have to hunt for the rice crackers that hide behind the pretzels. She learned to ask, "Does this fit your day?" instead of, "Can you just?" which is a sentence that eats hours. Daniel started leaving the car seats buckled where they should be so I didn't have to wrestle them. They changed small things because the big shape had changed, and that's what sticks. I could end here, at the part where the plan is written on the fridge in fat marker and on my calendar in ink and in our heads, in a voice that doesn't crack. But there was one more turn, the kind you wouldn't expect unless you've lived long enough to know people learn slowly and then all at once. It happened at their dining table, a month after we started the new routine, on a Sunday night when the kids had gone sticky and sleepy, and Kayla had that end-of-week look like she could cry or bake, depending on what you handed her. The kids were sticky and sleepy after dinner, drifting between the living room and the hallway like small comets. We stayed at the table. Kayla rested her elbows on the wood and said she'd done the math in her head all week, not just the money, the hours. She didn't say sorry. She said, "I want you happy to be here, not exhausted from being here," and that was better than a speech. Daniel sat again and stopped rinsing grapes like he could fix the day with fruit. "I keep reaching for the phrase, 'just for the next 2 months,'" he said. "I'm trying to retire it." He gave a half smile that belonged to the boy who used to bring me broken things and say, "It was like that when I found it." I slid a paper calendar into the center, the kind with large squares, and a marker that doesn't fade. We wrote down school pickup and drop off first, so we wouldn't pretend those moved. Then I put my hours in ink, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 3. Daniel tapped the word ink and nodded, like saying it out loud helped. We filled the rest without using me as a quiet assumption. Kayla called Mrs. Patel while we sat there. She put the phone on speaker, introduced herself again, and asked for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons. Mrs. Patel asked for the half-days in advance and said she leaves at 5:30, not 5:37. "Clarity keeps the day kind," she said, and I liked her even more. Kayla agreed and wrote the time twice. I texted Ruth for the college students' hours. Nina could do most Fridays and 2 of the school holiday mornings. She couldn't do the 3rd because of an exam. We wrote that down and left the square open instead of trying to pretend it wasn't there. Daniel called the neighbor about her high schooler. She could do 1 Wednesday a month, and he promised to give her a week's notice so she didn't have to juggle cheer practice. He wrote a star next to her name and put his initials by it so the reminder would point at him. Kayla looked at the blotchy grid and then at me. "We never offered to pay you," she said. "Do you want us to?" "I want my days," I said. "If you need extra once in a while and I say yes, we'll treat it like a favor, not a fix. You can slip gas money in my hand. More important is notice. If you know on Sunday, tell me on Sunday. Don't text at noon and expect me to be outside the school." She winced and nodded. "I did that too many times." "It's done," I said. "This is the next version." Daniel traced the Wednesday square. "I can move 1 meeting every other week and be in the car line by 3. I'll finish emails after bedtime." He glanced at Kayla. "It means I miss the late call twice a month." She didn't sigh. "Do it," she said. "I can trade an afternoon for an early morning. My team will live." The kids came back in pajamas, hair damp from quick baths, asking for the long book we read on the rug. After teeth and lights and the small negotiations children always try, the 3 of us returned to the table and copied the calendar twice, one for their fridge, one for mine. Daniel took a photo because his brain keeps paper best when it lives in his camera roll. He hovered with the marker. "What happens if we mess up?" he asked. Not fishing for permission, just wanting a rule. "You tell me before it's a mess," I said. "We move a piece. We don't throw the whole plan in the air and land on me." He nodded. "Right." Kayla stood, cleared plates, and paused. "It scares me that childcare is a bill now," she said. "But I don't want to keep paying with you." "That's the correct fear," I said. "It makes you plan." The week that followed wasn't elegant, but it worked. Mrs. Patel arrived on Monday with a tote bag full of order. She spoke to the kids first, then to Kayla. "Snack at 3:15, homework after, shoes by the door," she said like bell times. On Friday, Nina taught them a card game and sent a text that simply read, "All good, all good." Left the spelling list on the counter. A short sentence can carry a lot of relief. I kept my 2 days and felt my shoulders drop. We walked the long way to the park on Thursdays, past the sycamores, and counted how many dogs wore bandanas. I didn't rush through the messy science kit. We let the vinegar fizz as long as it wanted and saved the ruined towel for rags. When my knee whispered at me in the afternoon, I sat down and Mia read to me instead. "It's still Grandma Day," she said. "You can sit." There were hiccups. One Friday, Nina's car wouldn't start, and Kayla needed an hour to get home. I had a free morning and took the kids to mine for pancakes. Nobody pretended that meant Fridays were mine now. We called it what it was, a favor. Midweek, Daniel almost slipped. "Could you do Wednesday?" he asked, reflex beating reason by a second. Then he stopped himself. "Sorry, I'll trade a meeting. We'll ask the neighbor for the last half hour." He did both. He sent me a photo from the car line that looked like pride disguised as routine. "I got her," his text said. He wasn't telling me. He was telling himself. A month in, Kayla sent a picture of an envelope she'd labeled by hand, "Care." Inside was a small stack of cash for sitters. "If it's gone, we don't borrow you," she wrote. "We cut something else or call someone else." I needed to see it, not just think it. On my fridge, Mia taped a school page with block letters that said, "Grandma comes Tuesday and Thursday, I know that." She'd drawn me with a bag of pretzels. I kept it there and replaced the weak magnet with a stronger one. There was one hard evening when everything hit at once. Rain, traffic, a math worksheet that made Mia cry. Kayla called at 9 to confess she'd almost dialed me to come fix it. "I picked up the phone and put it down," she said. "I wanted you for the wrong reason. I made tea instead." It wasn't a rescue, but it helped. "Tea helps," I said. "So does doing the plan on a bad day." By December, we weren't talking about the system anymore. We were just doing it. On a gray Sunday, they came to my place for stew. After we ate, I pulled out sticky notes and said we were going to try a game. Everyone wrote one small thing they could do to make the week run smoother. Mia wrote, "Shoes by the door." Ollie scribbled and translated it as "no pee pants," which earned a straight face and a pat on the shoulder. Daniel wrote, "Check aftercare email on Mondays." Kayla wrote, "No extra errands on Grandma Days." I wrote, "Walk the park loop if the weather lets us." We stuck the notes on their fridge and left them there until the paper curled at the corners. On the last school day before winter break, I picked up for one of those holiday mornings Nina couldn't cover. We made cinnamon toast and cut snowflakes that left little paper moons everywhere. I left at noon, kissed 2 heads, and went home for a nap without feeling like I was quitting early. Kayla walked me to the door and said, "This is better. I still wish childcare wasn't a luxury, but this works because it's ours." It sounded like a line from a play we'd been trying to memorize for months and finally knew. If you're wondering about the lesson, it's smaller than a slogan. We wrote the times where everyone could see them. We asked 2 other adults to share the load and paid them for their time. We stopped using "just this once" as a key to unlock me. I kept 2 days that belonged to me and to them, and those days feel light again. On the other days, I keep my appointments, sit on my porch, and let the fan push August air in slow circles. I earned those hours. I'm not handing them over to a calendar I didn't sign. That's the story. Ordinary problem, ordinary fix. Love didn't shrink. It grew into a shape we could all carry.